I know. It's been forever since I did my last episode. Um, Not a full month, almost. I checked the last date. It was April 21st. And today is May 19th. So come on now. At least I got it within the month. It hasn't been a full month. I think I've gone a full month without doing an episode before, but that's the past we're in right now. It's May. This is still Dumb Test Late. I'm still Kirk. It's still a, what do I call it now? Story creating podcast. I dropped the AI kind of hook for this podcast, and it's just straight up now, just me in my 40-ish range of life creating stories. That's what I nailed down this podcast to be. And it only took me how many years? Let's not count that. But yes, this is the story creating podcast that I come up with stories and try to build them out. Mainly stories that I come up with while daydreaming while I'm supposed to be working. We're not going to talk about if I'm supposed to be working right now. Don't tell anyone. But no. But like I said, I'm Kirk, Dumb Test Late. I haven't done an episode in a while. Like, I literally have been sick. I haven't had like a good voice in a while. Like it wasn't even like, oh, I have a cool night voice. No, I had voice of death. I have to also look for a new studio soon, so that'll be happening. So this studio, I forgot what I named it, but I've only been here a year, and I need to find a new one. Hopefully one that's kind of bigger, not actually a studio. Wink, wink, if you actually understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, a lot going on. The downfall of democracy and civilization is still going on around me, but that's okay. That's okay. Because the mood for this year and the next 4 years is, that meme of the little dog sitting in the house that's on fire saying, this is fine. This is fine. We still have to create it when everything is burning around us. That sucks, but can't have everything we want. We can have some things we want, can't have everything we want. And I hope you want and happy to hear me again, because I'm Kirk and this is still Dumb Test Late. And it's the third time I said that, so that means I actually do need to get into the episode. And I'm bringing back an old favorite. Well, hopefully it's an old favorite of yours, but it is an old favorite of mine, and I want to expand on it more. So that's what we're getting into. Now time for some interactive fun. So with that out the way, the intro. The story I'm bringing back, the last episode I did was the triple feature. I sadly had to even look that up and see what the last episode was. It was just 3 quick stories I had in my head floating that I didn't really build too much on. I had just had like the concepts come on now, and that I just wanted to get these smaller stories out. So my triple features, my old school throwback to like the drive-in days when you would go and see like smaller B or C or D movies as a triple feature. So those were my, I guess, C movies or ideas. But the previous 3 episodes, my You and You series started out with You and You, You and Yours, and Yours and Yours. This whole series where I brought back an old friend, Cole, for my Insecta series, if you want to go back in the episodes and look that up. But the TLDR is that Cole was a shaman who really didn't want to be a shaman. They were a person who had this back history of a long lineage of shaman and people who were of the mystic world and all this stuff and different dimensions and different worlds and older Mesopotamian gods and minor gods and deities and demons and angels and all that stuff. But they were kind of not wanting to join that world. They just wanted to be a regular unknown person. But then when you have this lineage or if you have this destiny to be a shaman, the spirit world will kind of guide you or follow you around and remind you. And for Cole, it was in the form of insects. Insects were kind of the shell or kind of the transport for these deities. And it led to me bringing the Mothman as a character into Cole's Insecta story. That's why I was called Insecta, because even though the Mothman is already, a setup as a character, the way I envisioned him was that he was this entity that was built up of different insects that can become as one to guide Cole. Cole needed a guide to show Cole that they were a shaman, that what their destiny was, what their powers were in the Mothman was that in the initial story. And and that led to Cole essentially saving the world, or saving this dimension, because Cole finds out that multiple dimensions are going on at the same time. There's multiple versions of themselves. There's multi-dimensions, and within one dimension, the past, present, and future are going on all at the same time. Trust me, I confused myself when I was doing this, but I'm trying to like give the nuts and bolts of the world. Go back and listen to the old episodes. But yeah, so Cole has these powers of sight. They can see things as they are a shaman. They can jump between different dimensions. They basically, what I called it was one themselves. They did it in a good way that made them a really powerful shaman. But then when they did this, they combined all their multidimensional selves, what I call one themselves. And because they were shaman, they did it without turning evil. Because when other people do it, when they're tricked into doing it, they become evil. But Cole, with the help of the Mothman, was able to do this and stay good. So Cole became the protector of this realm, which sent out a beacon to all other dimensions, all other worlds, these old deities, that Cole is now the shaman, the protector. But now that opened them up to take on the responsibility. And I tried very hard to escape the term, with great power comes great responsibility. I know I cannot think of a new one for that. It's just so good. Sorry, don't sue me, Marvel. R.I.P. Uncle Ben. But yeah, and so I created more and more of these stories where Cole is now like I said, the protector of this realm, and these older deities like Cole, their initial, because I didn't have a gender for Cole. I wanted Cole to be kind of neutral, or be, not of the gender binary, be non-binary, because they just encapsulate so much. They don't need to be withheld. Yeah, that sounds right. Held down by gender norms or anything like that. They're just a being. They're an entity. Doesn't care. The protector of a realm doesn't really need a gender. They just need to be a really amazing being and entity, because they have to save this world over and over. They have to help people, because the big thing is, from the original story, Cole was being misguided by these older Mesopotamian deities. But Cole, with the help of the Mothman, figured out that they were being tricked by both of them, and they defeated both of them. But that keeps happening. Like the original when I brought back Cole in the Insecta series with the past 3 episodes, is that Cole can see. Cole has a vision of sight. So they can see when someone else is being tricked into wanting themselves, but becoming, let's just say, a villain, or becoming evil and all that stuff. Cole can see when someone else is being tricked by these minor deities from the past. The earlier episodes I did, that what happened from True Life Stories. So that brings me to here. Go back and listen to the last couple episodes named You and Yours. I'm following down that path. But what I realized is, because I wanted to do another story, there's another big story I want to do. It's about baseball, but I put that one on hold because there's a loud car driving past. I have more real life kind of inspirations, because early on, I had mentioned this, that I just listened to true crime all day at work, true crime podcasts and stories. So my mind wanders. And I heard some more true crime stories that kind of sent me, true crime and also cryptid stories that sent me down this path of, one of the original things I wanted to do with this podcast was have a Monster of the Week series. I love the idea of like those old pulp magazines and pulp comics where there was these cheesy monsters, like, the Toxic Avenger, or where they had multiple versions of Frankenstein and Dracula and all this stuff. I love that cheesy Monster of the Week, and I always wanted to do that. That was one of the major goals of this podcast, of this story creating podcast, is have a Monster of the Week. And then it hit me because, I would listen to a true crime story, a historic true crime about a serial killer or something like that, of his history and this mystery and, real life history. But then I would listen to, a story about a cryptid or a haunting or something like that. And I was like, I can take the inspiration from both an actual true crime story or a mystery and match it with some kind of cryptid or ghost story or something like that, and make my Monsters of the Week. Like the earlier the past couple of episodes when I brought back Cole and Insecta, it was based off a true crime story where somebody was in Texas a couple hours before, then they ended up on the side of the road in Washington a couple hours later. And this is big mystery. Then I combined it with they were being misguided by this this foreign, an ancient deity that was turning them evil by combining their multidimensional selves. Go listen to the past episodes. I broke it down. But I'm bringing back Cole the Shaman in the Insecta series as my monster of the week. Because I have a few new, basically, cryptids that were like minor cryptids that I can match with weird and, sometimes unfortunate, sometimes really sad true life crimes and mysteries and all this stuff to make these cryptids as my monster of the week that Cole basically has to either fight themselves or help the people that are being misguided and lied to and tricked not to be, to defeat these ancient gods. Because like I said earlier, when Cole became the shaman of this realm, the protector of this realm, they basically opened themselves up and opened this realm up to be influenced and attacked by these older gods, because that's what happened to Cole in their origin story. Them defeating there was these competing gods that were trying to trick Cole into both doing bad things, but then they realized with the help of the Mothman that they were both evil, and Cole defeated them. And then the Mothman kind of dissipated. That's why I said the Mothman is made of multiple entities. Mothman wasn't needed anymore because he helped Cole become the protector and the shaman. So he kind of went away and Cole took the Mothman's place. Cole is now the protector, the guider of this realm and the multiple realms and all this stuff. And Cole is going to be the protector for my monster of the week stories. So I'm going to take a quick break because I need a breath because I've been rambling, but I have a lot more to get to. And this podcast is brought to you by Topo Chico mineral water, carbonated, the best mineral water when you have the bubble guts. No, I don't have ads. No, nobody would advertise on this show. But I do want a quick aside about advertisements. I was listening to this podcast and they're talking about this really gory true life crime or crime spree. I don't even remember. And they were like really getting into the gory details. And I was like on the edge of my seat. And then all of a sudden it jumped without like warning, without a pause or a setup or anything. It jumped to this ad with Reba McEntire. You just went from like all these gory details and then he chopped all their heads off and it just goes, I'm Reba McEntire. I'm like, how? I know a lot of podcasts don't choose what ads play during it's a business thing that they're not involved in, but it was just so weird. And now I can't look at Reba McEntire the same way. But yeah, I don't have ads. That's an ultimate goal is to become, I'm an independent podcaster and just become, work off ads and, what is it called? Like support, like listener supported things like Patreon and all that. If I ever did Patreon, I don't know what I would offer you all. I don't know. My love support. Maybe that's worth like 25 cents a show, but no, I'm independent. This podcast costs me money, more than making money, but that's not the goal. The goal is to be creative and put your work out there. But yeah, back to the show. We're in Cole's world. Cole is our shaman, our protector in this Insecta monster of the week story. So I'm going to make it the monster of the week. I'm going to do other stories, but this is going to be my long form story where Cole is the ultimate superhero. They are the Batman. They are the Wonder Woman. They are the Iron Man. They are the Swamp Thing. They are everything in these monster of the week stories. So saying that, the inspirations, like I said, true life stories match with maybe minor cryptids, and I make new cryptids or cryptids that really haven't gone down or like use old mythology, because a lot of the gods I were using that were coming back to fight Cole were these minor deities from Mesopotamia, these earlier gods that people long have forgotten about. But I like that as inspiration because it was like the old coming back, and Cole being from this long lineage of shamans and protectors, they're here now to save us. Also, another thing I want to use that I have no idea about as inspiration, but I do love the aesthetic of it, are Magic the Gathering cards, because randomly for another future Monster of the Week story, this is one I haven't, this is a Monster of the Week that I'm not doing for this episode, but there's going to be a mention to bolt lightning, which is an actual thing. If you have time, go look up videos of bolt lightning. It is horrifying. And I mean horrifying that is a real thing, because it looks straight up from like a video game or a movie or Dungeons and Dragons or something. It looks like a dragon spit it out, like blue lightning that bounces around and just causes fire. It's terrifying. But of course, I want to use it. That's my real world inspiration. It's going to be something that either Cole can control or someone else can control. But it's horrifying. But that's going to be a future monster of the week. But that led me down a path, because one of the Magic the Gathering cards, there's a bolt lightning card, and of course I want to buy it because I have to go down the path of buying stuff. I bought so many comic books. I'm hooked on comic books now. I'm sorry, people. Because now I'm down the rabbit hole of Magic the Gathering cards, because I'm going to use like one of the cards as the inspiration. So when I do these monster of the weeks, I'm so glad I looked at the computer, just because I just hit the spacebar on my keyboard by accident and it stopped recording. And if I would have rambled on without recording, I would have lost my mind. But okay, back to what I was saying. Magic the Gathering cards is inspiration. I was lucky. I randomly was in GameStop and they're starting to sell like individual cards. So I was like, oh, that's much better. Probably could buy individual cards for inspiration. Like the one I picked up is called Witch's Vengeance. I have no idea how Magic the Gathering works. I have no idea how other card works. And if you are into it, I'm very sorry, because I'm going to get these without understanding it at all. And it's probably going to piss some people off that are way into it. I am very sorry. Maybe one day I'll go down the rabbit hole enough that I'll get into it, but not yet. Right now, they're just pretty cards with pretty pictures. And to piss somebody else off, I'm going to say this. I'm playing the Witch's Vengeance card. So this is a sorcery card. Creatures of the creature type of your choice get -3 until end of turn, whatever that means. And I'm sorry if you know what that means and you're yelling at whatever you're listening to this on. I'm sorry. I just like the way it looks. The hex swept through the village, its citizens falling one by one. That's what it says on the card. That's what I'm reading from. This one is from 2019. I also want to find the ball lightning card for the monster of the week I'm doing that for. It's an older card, so I'm going to have to get it on eBay or something. But yeah, that's one of my inspirations, because the Witch's Vengeance card I said I'm playing for this one fits into my monster of the week story, because my monster of the week is coming from the one inspiration of a real life kind of unsolved mystery thing in history, like a real life death. So I think this happened in the 90s, like mid 90s or early 90s. It was a person named Christopher Case. He lived in Washington. He lived in Seattle. He was a DJ. He was 35 years old, and he took a trip to San Francisco for some kind of, let's say, convention. It was like a music convention. And when he came back, he was telling his friends he was cursed by a witch. And then like a week later, I think he said he was cursed and he had 7 days to live. And I think exactly 7 days later, he was found in his apartment in his bathtub, and he died from like a mysterious death. It was like no wounds. There was nobody robbed him or anything or broke in. He was just like found in his bathtub. And basically his heart stopped, and it was like just given a mysterious, closed case. But like his apartment, there was a bunch of crosses and occult books and salt spread around the floor. But what he told his friends is he met this woman who he called a witch in San Francisco for this music fest or whatever it was, or something like that. And that they kind of hit it off and like had a conversation, or they had a good meet about, because Christopher was into older music from the ancient world. And this just played on my mind because I had all these thoughts about Monster of the Week from these older gods and older deities from Mesopotamia. And according to his story, he met this person. They hit it off because they were a singer. It was this older woman. And according to him, she wanted to date him or go out on a date with him, and he turned her down. And then she put a curse on him, told him he would die in 7 days. And he returned home and told his friends. It was kind of fearful. And he ended up going to like bookstores and buying all these crosses and books of the occult and all this stuff. But then 7 days later, like I said, he was found dead. unfortunately, and it's kind of this, mysterious death and unsolved thing because all the stuff he was saying was he was cursed by the witch. So to take from, that's the real life story I'd be taking from. And to create my monster of the week, I came up with that Chris was actually cursed. This isn't the real story. This is just me taking it in a fictional turn. Unfortunately, it is an unsolved mystery, and somebody who's 35 seemed like a nice person passed away, which is unfortunate. But taking it down the fictional road is that Chris, you don't see him meeting the witch. You just see him telling the story to his friends. Like, he has two friends. This is me going down my story. That he was cursed, and he tells them what happened. He met this person, this older woman who was into this ancient music. And what happens in my story is that Chris has these ancient recordings of music that he plays, and that attracts this person to him, this older woman, which he says is a witch. But in the story, I was about to say in reality, but this is a story, that person he met was an older deity from Mesopotamia and all this stuff that was attracted to Chris because he understood or knew this ancient music, or he played something that hadn't been played for thousands of years. And that attracted this ancient minor deity disguised as this woman. So this woman needs Chris to do something like I've done in other stories. They need to be hypnotized or tricked into becoming evil by wanting themselves, by basically jumping dimensions and taking over their other selves. But this makes them more evil, unlike Cole the Shaman, who was able to do it and stay pure and true. That's why Cole is the protector. So this witch needs Chris to do something, or something happened to him in these 7 days that's going to lead him down this evil path. So this, what he calls a witch, has basically hypnotized him with the ancient music. And that's why he thinks he's cursed, because all these things started to happen to him. But what it's called, I found, like, looking up, it tracks Udug, Udug, which is kind of the ancient Mesopotamian term, which literally is like short for Mesopotamian mythology demons. And that's why I said what he thinks is a witch is a demon in disguise at this older woman, because the music attracts to him and then they imprint on him. Hence why he thinks he's cursing the whole 7 days thing, because at the end of the 7 days, he thinks he's going to die. But what's actually going to happen is his dimensional form will become cursed, and it will start cursing all his other dimensional forms. They will all become evil, and they'll be able to one themselves in one huge evil monster form that this Udug will take over. Another term I found, doing research, is Enamatilla, Enamtila, which in Mesopotamia means house of life. So I'm going to use that term because that's what this Udug needs to take over. Like Chris's body, his spiritual being in this dimension is a Enamatilla that the Udug is trying to take over. And our protector and savior, sorry, that sounds really religious. Our superhero savior, Cole the Shaman, can see this happening because Cole has the power of sight. So when Chris gets with his two friends in this fictional story, they go to this kind of spiritual or metaphysical store where they try to find these books. What happens is Cole actually works there. And nobody's believing Chris. His friends kind of half believe him, but they're going on with him because he's really freaked out. And then they're going and asking Cole. They don't realize Cole is this new Mothman and protector and the shaman. That's what Cole just does. That's Cole's day job. They just run this, let's just say I call it a shaman store, this spiritualistic store. And Chris's friends picks up all these, crystals and, protecting things and all this stuff and all these occult books in the salt to protect themselves because nobody's believing them, and they go back to the apartment. But then what happens when they're in the apartment is Cole can turn themselves into different entities, like a bunch of different insects to travel and all that stuff and jump not time zones, but dimensional rifts and all that stuff. So Cole finds a way to follow them back and freaks them out. But then Cole's in his apartment, and Cole kind of shows them the reality that, yes, you were essentially cursed. But Cole shows them the truth that it wasn't this, what you think is a witch. It's this Udug. It's this older minor Mesopotamian deity that's trying to come back, and shows Cole the truth that they're going to essentially enter him. His Enamatilla, his house of life, but basically turn him evil and turn all the forms of him evil. Like Cole has to break down to Chris that he is in a way special. He's gifted, but this Udug is trying to turn him bad because he is special. And he convinces his friend Selden. That's why in the real life story there was salt all around his apartment, because Cole has to basically buy time because his Udug is following Chris. Like Cole knows how to fight them, but if Cole fights them, it won't defeat them. It will just kind of defer them, and it will jump to another dimension. Like Cole realizes this dimension is the genesis for this, why this Udug is trying to do what they're trying to do to Chris. So Chris needs to basically die in this realm. Chris's animatilla or life force needs to die in this realm and jump to another dimension. That's what Cole eventually has to explain to Chris and his friends, that the only way to protect Chris, because he is in a way special, is to trick the Udug. That's why they're doing this this whatever magical thing in this apartment, to trick the Udug into thinking they are taking over Chris. But then what Cole the Shaman is going to do is basically another power that Cole has, is that they can take Chris's animatilla, their life form, put it in a basically temporary holding place, which is going to be insects. It's going to be like this. It looks like a thing that's catching butterflies, this ancient thing that Cole has. But the butterfly is going to actually be Chris. Chris is going to be turned into these like small group of butterflies in this catcher thing that Cole will transport into another dimension. And Chris is going to have this heart to heart with his friends, because he's going to miss his friends, he's going to miss his current life. But Cole reminds them that this is the only way to save them, because if he doesn't, it's basically going to make Chris evil. That's what happened, because the Udug imprints on Chris in some way and has followed him back to Seattle. Until the 7 days are up. So Cole, as a shaman, with Chris and his friends, they put his body in his bathtub, and they basically, with all of them around, they perform this ritual to get Cole's life force, his animatilla, into this, let's say, just butterfly crate, and that is now Chris. But then the Udug jumps into Chris's life form, his animatilla enters him, hit his life force. But then that was the trick. Cole tricked the Udug, and now the Udug is trapped in Cole's body, and Cole basically passes away and expires. His heart stops, so the curse ends there. Cole doesn't become evil. Chris doesn't become evil, and Cole can transport him into another dimension, whereas basically his life is safer. His life force is safer in this other dimension, his other like dimensional form, where something happens where that dimensional form is about to die. Like I've said this before in the previous Insecta stories, like you have multiple selves in other dimensions. So Cole can transport Chris into this other dimension that's about to die, but then he brings this other life force, and can live safely in this other dimension and have a normal life. The story ends, because this happened in real life. It was a really nice moment. I was getting in my car, and this is a really nice butterfly just flying around in front of me. And that's how the story is going to end. The visual, how it's going to end. You're going to see one of the friends walking outside in a park, and it's just this beautiful butterfly flicking around, flying towards them, and it lands like on their nose or on their finger or something. And they have this really nice moment because they know their friend Chris is saved. Even though they can't see them and talk to them anymore, they know they're safe and they're happy in this other dimension because they get reminded from this butterfly. That's the end of this Monster of the Week story. Real quick wrap up. So the real life story was based on Christopher Case's story, his mysterious death. And then it's matched with what I'm calling the Udug, which is what he called the witch. That's why I played the Witch's Vengeance card from Magic the Gathering. The Udug wanted to, sorry for saying this, enter Chris's animatilla, his house of life, which is your spiritual being. Cole believes Chris is cursed, but then Cole ends up saving him, transforming him into these butterflies and transporting him into another dimension. There traps the Udug in Chris's dying body. That's why it was a mysterious death where their heart just stopped. But essentially what's happened is the Udug that was trying to take over and make Chris evil and all his dimensional forms evil dies there. And the monster of the week is destroyed. And Cole the Shaman, the superhero of the hour, saves us all from the monster of the week. And that, my friends, is how you end the story. So yeah, I'll end it there. Under 30 minutes. That's how we end a monster of the week, under 30 minutes. So thank you for listening. I'm hoping to do I'm doing this on a Monday, May 19th, 2025. Like I said before, if you're listening to the future, I'm sorry the world is over, but thank you for still listening to me. I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Late. Hopefully I'm rejuvenated. I've been struggling to do these episodes, but I'm rejuvenated by this Monster of the Week idea that I'm going to do. So I'll be doing more of those. I'll be going down many more rabbit holes of Monster of the Week and finding more Udugs and finding more old Mesopotamian gods that can resurrect and become the Monster of the Week. And Cole will save us all. But thank you. I'll leave it there. I love you all for listening. I love you all for still being alive. Sorry if this is the future and the world is over and aliens are only listening to us now, but that's what happens. But be happy. Love yourselves. Love someone else. Treat each other right. Treat each other with care, love, and understanding. And hopefully you'll hear from me again because I'll never stop doing this. Bye-bye.